How's it going, everyone? I'm gonna make a top 10 list of my favorite strategy slash tactical RPG list. It's gonna be a list that might stray from the genre a little bit with some of these picks. I kind of don't mean to do that, but these are also the games that when I think about strategy slash tactical RPGs, these are the ones that I think of in one way or another. So number 10 is going to be a game that I currently don't own, and I'll say that only because I haven't had a chance to play it again. But when I did play it, it was a tremendous game, and that is Civilization Revolution for the 360. This is a game that I really enjoyed. Same with my brother. This is a game that we just kind of picked up. We didn't play any Civilization Revolution or Civilization games in the past. My brother may have, but I never did. And we would play this all the time. Some of my friends ended up getting it too, so we could play online. I remember that it was a very, beginner version of Civilization, and I think that really played to its pros for someone who was beginning with it. Again, this is a game that my brother and I played consistently. It was back when achievements were a thing, and we really both kind of fought to get the 100%, not like against each other, but we both kind of were like, it's kind of fun getting these achievements. So, but some of them were pretty difficult to get, especially, I was pretty good at Civilization Revolution, but not extremely good. But man, that was just such a fun. I would recommend that game to many people. That is a game I would openly recommend. Number 9 is going to be Ogre Battle 64. Goes without saying, I actually never beat this game. I got really far into it. And this is a game that I should have just played more when I had it. It was always a game with mystery, always a game that I didn't have a walkthrough for, and getting the upgrades for characters and seeing them progress was such a delight. The story was very good. I think if I played it today, it would rank much higher on my list. But since I didn't beat it, it kind of ranks here. But, this is a game that my brother absolutely loved. It's one of his favorite games of all time. I could see why. I think if I played it again, it would rank much higher. And that just goes without saying. Easy pick here for a number 9. Number 8 is going to be Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth. This and number 7 are very close, and it was kind of hard to go back and forth with them. But the gameplay, absolutely love. Lord of the Rings, absolutely love. The switch on the storyline with the evil and taking over the world that way was very enjoyable. Kind of like a what if scenario. But the story isn't what propelled it. It was playing online against my friends. It was playing skirmish modes. It was just the gameplay of it. Playing, making a castle pretty much and defending the castle and having a lot of options on that end with this game. I thought it was very enjoyable. And for a 360 title, same as Civ Rev, you couldn't have necessarily the deepest control scheme. You were playing with a controller, but man, this game was just so much fun. The servers shut down. That was disappointing. So sadly, on the 360 you can't play anymore. But my brother, me, my dad used to actually watch me play this game as well, and that was really cool back in the day. So number 7 is going to be Shining Force. The only thing that I think brings this game down is playing it nowadays. It's a little slow, and that's kind of unfair because you can use fast speed options. And I think with Shining Force is I have been surrounded it by my whole life, and sometimes that actually brings the game down more than bringing it up. The amount that I've played it, the amount that I've been around it. This is my brother's favorite game. I totally understand why. I think it has every single thing my brother enjoys in and around fantasy. It like he likes more than what this game has to offer, but as a game that offers what it does in the way that it does in the package, I could definitely see why this is my brother's favorite game. Merged with nostalgia, and he loves Shining Force. I do too. I think it's a tremendous game. As far as the cast of characters, top 3, no doubt. It's just, I think it's just the same thing as Arkham Asylum, where I played it a lot, and now it's kind of like, I don't know if I could go back and play it, because I just know the game. And that's crazy for me to say, because my brother's played this like 5 times more than I have. He knows this game like the back of his hand. But you know, I even wonder if it's my brother's favorite game still, just because he's played some excellent games, and I wonder if this is more like a top 3 territory, you know, doesn't leave. But I know some of the games he's played recently he absolutely loves too, so maybe over time this will be always in the picture, but you know, I wonder now if it's still his number 1. Number 6 is going to be Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance. It's big time nostalgia with this game. It was right around Super Smash Melee. I had to see what, you know, these sword characters were all about. My grandmother got me a Game Boy SP. It's probably the greatest gift that I've ever got for Christmas, because of purely out of how mind-blowing it was. And I think any gift that you get for, you know, when you're a kid is very important as well. But I remember playing this, we were watching a movie at the same time, and I could not pay attention to the movie because the game was so captivating. It was so much fun. I ended up buying it. I lost it. I beat it when I was a kid. I lost it, and then I bought it on eBay, and then I replayed it, and I was still like, dude, this is just such a good game. And that was like 10 years ago that I rebought it, and I played it when I was like 10. So not only does it have nostalgia, I still think it holds up. I like the base gameplay of these Fire Emblem games more than the later entries. I like how it's just tactical, that's it. And there's no weapons making. I hated that. And honestly, I didn't really like interactions with characters. I know, like, Awakening, a lot of people like that idea of it, but I've never been someone who necessarily likes that as much as... and that's why a game later on this list has kind of the perfect in-between between Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem. Actually, 2 games on this list, I think, are what I want in a game, where it's not too much of that meta of the of getting your characters to like each other. So, and this was my entry into Fire Emblem. I really only played Fire Emblem. The second one for Game Boy Advance, Path of Radiance, Fire Emblem Awakening. Those are really the only ones I played, but and I beat them all. But I think my brother at this point is a bigger fan of the later entries. I think he would put Awakening and Three Houses as his top ones. So yeah, I mean, it's Fire Emblem, and I totally love the Game Boy Advance ones. So number 5 is going to be Triangle Strategy. This is one of the 2 games that I think does what I want in a game, where it's not as much of the romance and everything, but there's still some of that in there, and character bonding, and I think the narrative just stays on track the whole time with replayability. I think that it's the more mature version of Shining Force. I don't think the characters have as much time to shine, but I think that if you're looking for a game that is like the new entry into the Shining Force series with less fantasy and more of like a little bit of magic here and there, this is your perfect entry. At first I really did not like this game. Voice acting, something about it kind of irked me, but as I just was like, sit down, just play this game, I really found a gem in this one. I think that it's that new renaissance of these tactical RPGs that such a pleasure to play. Number 4 is going to be Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. I say the other one for Game Boy Advance because I knew I was going to talk about it right now. Normally I would say, because Fire Emblem for Game Boy Advance does everything I believe Fire Emblem should, with a great story, great characters, a great trio with the 3 main cast. But Sacred Stones really, I think I played it when when I was a kid, and I really bonded with one of these. I think his name was Uin, and he was just a little kid mage, and you could really make him a fucking epic ass, like either summoner or necromancer, or you could make him a sage, base as a mage, and he was just this awesome character with another sage that I felt like who was his trainer. I had this. They have their own lore, but I also was just like, dude, this is the bond that I have between them. And the last battle, I ended up losing that mage, Uin, and I was like, dude, but the last battle, I was a kid, I didn't really want to restart the battle because I felt like it was, my story had ended there. I was like, Uin was, going against the boss, and the boss ends up killing him, and I'm like, dude, that's just such a good send-off to this character, doing the last stand, and, I just had a lore to it. I loved some of the additions that this game gave to the base game. It felt like an expansion to Fire Emblem for the GBA. It was the kind of the final entry into this this era of Fire Emblem games, kind of like the second era of Fire Emblem games, and it just blew me away as a kid. And still, I think it just has an astounding, character set. And again, it just felt like a DLC to, I guess you could say it's like Shining Force 2 to, Shining Force, and you can see which one you like more out of the two. But normally, I think I would say the original, but Sacred Stones really catapulted it for me. I absolutely love Sacred Stones, and it's just a little bit above the GBA version, just with, I still think it has a stellar cast of characters, and I think that Lion, the main bad guy, was absolutely spectacular, and the whole twist with that, and growing up with him, and yeah, it kind of reminded me of Ogre Battle 64 with the kind of with the story. So I think Ogre Battle 64 is a better story, but I need to play that game more. I need to replay it. Number 3 is probably my most played single player game of all time. It's Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Storyline wise, never really beat this game, but for a game that I can just pop in and play, come on, there's no game that amounts to this game. Seriously, this is the game of endless gameplay that never fucking ends. So I really need to tip my hat off to this game as far as giving me some time to quiet my mind. I'm not going to go into this as much because I really only played it through the online maps. I always liked large or extra large maps because it gave more time to just be in the universe of Heroes of Might and Magic. You could play a 10 or 20 hour long map and just get a fix of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 over a day or two, and then you can skip a month, skip 3 months, skip a year, and then go back and be like, oh yeah, of course I know how to play Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Number 2 is the only game that's close to surpassing my number 1 on this list. That sounds stupid. Of course it's 2 or 1, but I need to give this more time. I need to play it more. I need to play it again, etc. But this is the perfect in between. It's the perfect culmination of all the games before it: Ogre Battle, Shining Force, Fire Emblem. All of those games are merged into this one, and I feel like it's a perfect love letter to those games with adding more structure, and I think has the best graphics of any of the games on this list as well. And that's Unicorn Overlord. I remember watching this game, in pre-development, and watching it kind of grow from, the middle of it, growing, man, these people are the worst, man. These people have been the worst. They keep on walking around and they're just terrible at walking around. It's just like, it makes no sense. This guy's trying to go around me, behind me, craziness. But yeah, Unicorn Overlord really blew my fucking mind. And it really lived up to what, and few games do that, like actually live up to like what I hope they are. And Unicorn Overlord did that. I think it did it in fucking spades. It had that romance element, but not too much of it. It had an open world, like an overworld that you could traverse, which I thought was amazing. It had awesome gameplay. Again, very reminiscent of Oaken Battle. Yeah, I mean, Unicorn Overlord is the old and the new all merged together. I think the story is kind of in line with Fire Emblem stories, where it's not necessarily the best, but it really like holds you through the whole game and kind of has the story of revenge and some intricacies and yeah, man, Unicorn Overlord is the whole package, and I think that I can't say that about most games, but Unicorn Overlord is the whole package. I think the number one only goes higher because I think the story is, you know, top 3 in all games, so that's kind of hard to beat. And it's just the top 3 games that I've played, so there's plenty of good stories out there. It's just, you know, and Unicorn Overlord doesn't really you know, throw any like crazy surprises or something where it's like, man, that sticks with you. So number 1 is going to be Final Fantasy Tactics. Sorry for bursting everyone's bubble and not having a game that's original. This is probably on many of, but to be fair, people love RTS games. People love like Total War, Command and Conquer, Civilization, XCOM. There's so many, like, there's so many. My buddy likes Dawn of War, Company of Heroes. There's so many, like, different strategy games and tactical RPGs. And I know there's Shin Megami, which I always wanted to play, like, Devil Survivor. Yeah, I think it's Devil Survivor. But there's so many games out there that are, like, you know, that are just so amazing for RPGs. And Final Fantasy Tactics just has the best story. It has solid gameplay. I love the graphics. I love the, you know, how you could tell that other games have been influenced by this, especially Triangle Strategy. But yeah, this is top notch gameplay, top notch. It still holds up. I mean, I think this game came out in '98, which is crazy. And of course created the Evil East universe too, so, you know, Vagrant Story and Zodiac Age, you know, all tremendous games. I don't really see this game being I mean, again, Unicorn Overlord I think is kind of like the 2-in-1. Like, I think it's also 1, and I think Final Fantasy Tactics is also 2. I think they're kind of equal. One sets out on a different objective, and I think accomplishes that with a 10 out of 10. And I think that, and I don't think that a story would necessarily work heavily with Unicorn Overlord, because there's so many characters to introduce, and there's so many, you know, things to do in the overworld, and then to do that with, you know, the romance and the gameplay holding up with, you know, different characters and different. It sets out to do a lot. So I think that with the story, it works perfectly as a template for the gameplay, graphics, for everything like that. Well, Final Fantasy Tactics really sets out to do that story, and I think does it perfectly. Like, of course it takes from books and movies and everything, but I think for a game, I think that it is like the perfect blending of gameplay merged with that story. So yeah, I would say Unicorn Overlord and Final Fantasy Tactics are my clear kind of 1, you know, tied with 2. They're games that I could see myself going back to, and I don't really, the only other game that I could see kind of going up here is gonna be God, my car's messy. Is gonna be Ogre Battle 64 if I ever played it again. I think that's the only game that kind of would enter this picture, because I think Ogre Battle 64 is kind of the blend of Unicorn Overlord and Final Fantasy Tactics. So, you know, with that great story, plus, I mean, it's the game that really made Unicorn Overlord, like, in general, with the gameplay and the maps, and but just kind of does a little bit more with the gameplay. So yeah, that's my list. You know, I'll put it in the description below, and as always, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.